You know, the idea of the love story is something that's been around for a really long time. Ever since storytelling was invented, I guess, we've had this tale of people who fall in or fight for or really just do anything for the sake of this enigmatic idea of love. From your Casablancas to whatever Netflix is putting out this week, almost every movie has some kind of love story element. Whether that may be the main focus or just a way to fill time. But of all the movies and of all the love stories I've ever seen, which is probably far too many if you ask me, but that's a different conversation. There's only been one that's really stuck with me as a love story that everyone should experience. I might even say it's the only love story you ever really need to see, and that is the 2009 masterpiece 500 Days of Summer. 500 Days of Summer follows the story of a Tom who, like many of us, grew maybe not the best looking, certainly not the most adept with flirting or dating or whatever, and so would find himself living vicariously through these aforementioned love stories. Now, Summer is a girl who's grown up with somewhat of a distaste for the idea of love or just romance in general. If this may be any other movie, these two would fall in love, fight about something, break up, find each other again, and live happily ever after, knowing that they found no one. And this is why I feel 500 Days of Summer is such a great movie, because it takes us on the journey and shows us exactly what all the other movies and books and top 40 songs or whatever get the wrong idea of the one, or finding the one, I guess, is inherently a pretty selfish way of thinking. It puts a really unfair amount of pressure on the other person to fill whatever emotional shoes you made for them without much say on their part. In the movie, Tom just decides that Summer is the one for him. They like the same music, they like the similar movies, everything seems perfect. But as Tom's little sister states,
just because some cute girl likes the same bizarro crap you do, that doesn't make her your soulmate, Tom.
But it's this idea that Summer is the one and they're like meant to be together or whatever that follows Tom throughout the whole movie, and it's really the whole reason for all the emotional ups and downs. At the very beginning of their relationship, Summer clearly lets him know that she's not looking for anything serious or long-term or whatever, looking for anything.
Hey, I just want to tell you that, I'm not really looking for anything serious. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But Tom, you see, has already decided that he and Summer are meant to be together. So he transfers this burden onto her shoulders, whether she likes it or not. And so when Summer doesn't hold up her end of the bargain that she didn't even take in the first place, Tom feels betrayed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
She never cheated on you.
No, never.
Did she ever take advantage of you in any way?
No.
And she told you up front that she didn't want a boyfriend.
Yeah.
This feeling of betrayal that Tom feels towards Summer lasts through the end of the movie, where he still feels like Summer did something wrong, and many of us watching the movie might feel the same way. But they were so happy together, they liked the same music, they had so many great times, and I don't know why or whatever. At the end of the movie, when Summer's explaining to Tom why she got married to the other guy, when she told Tom that she wasn't looking for anything serious, Tom and many of us feel that it doesn't make sense, or it's somehow unfair.
You never wanted to be anybody's girlfriend, and now you're somebody's wife. I don't think I'll ever understand that. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
It just happened.
Right, but that's what I don't understand. What just happened?
I just woke up one day and I knew.
And that feeling a lot of us had watching this movie is, I think, really the whole point. The love story in 500 Days of Summer isn't really between Tom and Summer. It's more to do with us and all the love stories that began and ended in our lives. All the people we thought were meant for us, and all the ones that got away. And it's not fair what they did to us. But you know, if you think about it, chances are we might not have been the ones who were being fair in the relationship. We might have put too much pressure on them to conform them to whatever our expectations was, whatever label we wanted to put on the relationship, instead of what it actually was. Not that you shouldn't have expectations or be looking for anything specific, but 500 Days of Summer serves as a reminder, and it isn't really the other person's responsibility to meet whatever expectations we may or may not have. They either do or they don't. And I guess that's the big question that this movie presents to us. Was Tom in love with Summer, or was he just in love with the idea of Summer? Now the answer to that is pretty obvious by the end. But my extension is, if we like Tom or more in love with our idea of someone, then we can't really blame anyone but ourselves when they don't meet whatever expectations we put on them. You know, 500 Days of Summer is one of the movies that I find myself coming back to again and again. And the reason why I come back to rewatch it every now and then is because this movie is kind of based on reality, you know? Like most of the movies, what happens is, like most of the love stories that I'm talking about in the movies, what happens is, like two people, they get together, okay? They get together and something happens, you know? Most of the times there's a third guy, or sometimes some stuff happen, okay? And they break up. And then they realize, yo, we are meant to be together. Look, she was the one, he was the one. And they get back together in the end. But this movie is kind of based on reality. Because in real life, what happens is most of the times when you get in a relationship and you guys break up, that's just it, you know? There is no getting back together. Okay? And it leaves a great amount of pain in your heart, you know? Like you are just heartbroken. Like, what to do with my life, you know? It is very hard to get through it, you know? It's very hard, it's very painful. And that's why, like, I kind of like this movie, because it's more like based on reality, you know? And most of the times it's not the third guy. And another thing that I really liked about this movie is, like, there was no real big drama. There was no third guy, okay? There was no third guy because of which they broke up. No. And there was no big fight either, you know? This doesn't work out. And that's kind of like reality. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, you know? There doesn't need to be a guy. There doesn't need to be anything. But sometimes you're just not supposed to be together. Sometimes God just doesn't want you guys together, okay? And because of that, you just have to go through a lot of pain. And that's what I think Islam does best, you know? God said it clearly, like, you guys can't be in relationships, okay? Because he doesn't want to see you get hurt, okay? He doesn't want you to go through that kind of heartbreak. So what he said, get married. You know, if you really want to be with someone, just get married. And I think that's like the perfect solution, okay? Because most of the time when you get married, you're like 20, 22, 25, okay? And that's like kind of like the perfect age, because both of you are mature. So the dumb stuff that you guys do, you know, like when you break up and stuff, like most of the times the reason is quite dumb. So, but when you get married, you know, you're kind of like mature. And you don't do dumb stuff like that because you're like, yo, I gotta make it work, you know, I'm married, I gotta make it work. And you just work it out, you know, you just work it out. And that's kind of like perfect, you know. Anyway, I just brought it in because, you know, I find it fascinating and it just came in my mind. Anyway, so that's why I actually like the movie. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you haven't yet, then please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And also tell me which movie should I react to next. And yeah, until then, Allah Hafiz.